The words had barely left her mouth when the entire courtroom froze. I don't follow rules. 5 words. 5 simple words that would destroy Brenda. Morrison's life in exactly 30 seconds and become the most viral courtroom moment in television history. The silence that followed was so complete you could hear the camera operators stop breathing. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed into the death stare that had made grown attorneys humiliate themselves on national television. In that moment, everyone in the courtroom knew they were about to witness something that would be replayed 52 million times, across every platform on Earth. But let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand exactly who Brenda Morrison was before those 30 seconds of karma destroyed her forever. Picture this: a 42-year-old suburban soccer mom strutting into Judge Judy's courtroom like she's walking a red carpet. A designer Lululemon outfit that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Fresh salon highlights still gleaming under the courtroom lights. A Michael Kors handbag clutched in her perfectly manicured hands like some kind of designer shield against accountability. Oversized sunglasses perched on top of her head, like a crown of entitlement. This was the kind of woman who parks in handicap spots because she's just running in. Quick. The kind of woman who returns used items for full refunds after getting all the use out of them. The kind of woman who leaves 1-star reviews on every business that doesn't worship the ground she walks on. For 42 years, Brenda Morrison had been getting away with it. Every single time. She'd been married twice, and both husbands left citing the exact same reason on their divorce papers: controlling behavior. She'd failed at 3 different business ventures, and every single time she blamed someone else. The economy was bad. Her partners were incompetent. The customers were unreasonable. It was never, ever Brenda's fault. She'd served on her HOA board for 6 years, wielding those neighborhood regulations like weapons against anyone who dared question her authority. She'd been PTA president at her kids' school until parents literally petitioned to have her removed. She ran a neighborhood Facebook group where she appointed herself the judge jury, an executioner of everyone's property maintenance decisions. Brenda Morrison had spent 4 decades perfecting the art of never facing real consequences for her behavior. And she walked into Judge Judy's courtroom that Tuesday morning, absolutely convinced that her winning streak would continue. What brought her there was simple on the surface, but devastating in the details. A woman named Rachel Joseph was suing Brenda for $8,500. Rachel, a 29-year-old single mother and graphic designer, had spent 2 years saving that money. 2 years of overtime shifts and skipped meals and saying no to her 6-year-old daughter when she asked for toys at Target. Rachel had trusted Brenda with her life savings because Brenda promised her an incredible opportunity. A silent partnership in a boutique event planning company that was absolutely, definitely, certainly going to make them both rich. Rachel wrote that check for $8,500 and watched Brenda immediately change. The phone calls stopped being returned. The business never launched a single event. Months after taking Rachel's money, Brenda announced the business was closing and refused to return a single penny. That's how business works, honey. Investments come with risk. That's what Brenda told Rachel before blocking her on every platform and disappearing into her next scheme. But Rachel Joseph wasn't the first victim. She wasn't even close. Brenda had been running variations of this scam for 15 years across 4 different states. In 2015, she ran a wedding photography business in Portland, Oregon. She took deposits from 23 couples and never showed up to a single wedding. In 2017, she sold luxury vacation packages in Sacramento, California that didn't exist. 17 families lost money. She actually served 6 months in county jail for that one. The moment she got out, she moved to a new city and started over with a new married name. By 2019, She was in Phoenix running a consulting business funded by her ex-husband's credit cards. Identity theft charges followed, along with a civil judgment for $34,000 that she never paid. Then came Los Angeles, where she harassed a neighbor for 8 months after the woman refused to invest in yet another business scheme. A restraining order, a violation, 30 days in jail. And the whole time, Brenda convinced herself that she was the victim. The system was against her. People didn't understand entrepreneurship. She was just ahead of her time. Before we dive into the most satisfying courtroom destruction you'll ever witness, tell me where you're watching from in the comments below. I love seeing viewers from around the world united in their love of justice. And if you're ready to see entitled behavior get absolutely destroyed, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another moment of karma, catching up with people who think they're above the law. Because what happened next will restore your faith that consequences still exist in this world. What Brenda Morrison didn't know what she couldn't possibly know was that Judge Judy had spent the previous night doing something she rarely does. She pulled Brenda's complete background file. Police reports from 4 different states. Court transcripts from half a dozen cases. Criminal background checks that revealed a pattern so disturbing, so methodical, that Judge Judy had marked the folder with a red flag before she even walked into the courtroom that morning. The woman who was about to declare that she doesn't follow rules had no idea she was walking into a trap set by a judicial mind that had crushed 10,000 entitled people before breakfast. Judge Judy knew exactly what Brenda Morrison was the moment she read that case file. A predator, a con artist, a serial scammer who had spent 15 years leaving a trail of devastated victims across America. And Judge Judy was ready to make an example out of her that would echo through courtroom history. The courtroom was buzzing with its usual electric energy when Brenda made her entrance. Cameras rolled live, capturing what everyone assumed would be another routine small claims case for millions of Americans. Watching from their living rooms, the audience had settled in, expecting the typical back-and-forth drama. Production assistants made their final checks. The bailiff took his position. Nobody in that room had any clue they were about to witness television history in the making. Then the door opened, and Brenda Morrison strutted in like a conquering hero returning from war. She actually paused in the doorway, letting the cameras get a good look at her designer outfit. She adjusted her hair with a dramatic flourish that would have made Broadway actors cringe. She shot confident glances at the cameras, already imagining herself going viral for all the right reasons. She took her place at the defendant's table with exaggerated confidence. Her Michael Kors handbag placed prominently in front of her, like some kind of status symbol meant to protect her from accountability. The audience was already murmuring disapproval. They could smell the entitlement coming off her like cheap perfume. Rachel Joseph sat at the plaintiff's table, clutching a folder full of evidence with trembling hands. She looked small next to Brenda's theatrical confidence. Her modest dress from Target, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, no designer accessories, no performative gestures. Just a single mother who had been robbed of 2 years of savings and finally found the courage to fight back. She faced forward, eyes fixed on Judge Judy, hoping that justice was more than just a concept she'd have to explain to her daughter someday. Brenda glanced at Rachel once with a dismissive little smirk, like she was looking at an annoying bug that had wandered into her peripheral vision. That smirk would be gone in about 20 minutes, replaced by tears and desperate begging. But right now, Brenda Morrison was riding high on a lifetime of getting away with everything. Judge Judy entered and the courtroom stood. She took her seat behind the bench and opened the case file with deliberate precision. Her eyes scanned the first page, then lifted to study Brenda Morrison with the calm patience of a predator studying prey. She'd seen this type before, the entitled posture, the dismissive attitude toward the plaintiff. The casual cruelty in the eyes when describing the victims, it all pointed to someone with a much darker past than suburban business failure. And the folder in front of Judge Judy confirmed every suspicion. This was going to be good. Judge Judy opened the case with her signature no-nonsense approach, her voice cutting through the courtroom air like a surgical blade. Ms. Morrison, you're being sued by Ms. Joseph for $8,500, claiming you took her investment in your event planning company and never returned it when the business failed. Tell me what happened. It was a simple question, direct, clear, the kind Judge Judy had asked thousands of times before. But Brenda's response immediately signaled that this case was going to be anything but ordinary. Brenda didn't just answer the question. She launched into a performance that could have won awards for sheer audacity. Your Honor, this woman completely misunderstands how business investments work. She began, her voice dripping with fake sophistication and condescension so thick you could cut it with a knife. I started a boutique event planning company for high-end clients, the kind of clientele that demands perfection. Ms. Joseph here invested as a silent partner, which means she understood the risks involved. But instead of sticking to the facts, Brenda started editorializing. She rolled her eyes dramatically whenever Rachel's name was mentioned. She added little comments like, as anyone with business experience would know. And obviously, she doesn't understand entrepreneurship. She waved her hand dismissively every time. Judge Judy tried to redirect her back to the actual question. The audience could feel the shift in energy, like the moment before lightning strikes. This woman was digging her own grave with every word, and she had no idea the ground was about to open beneath her feet. Judge Judy's eyebrows raised slightly, the first warning sign that experienced viewers knew meant trouble was brewing like a hurricane on the horizon. Ms. Morrison, she interrupted, her tone still professional, but edged sharp enough to cut steel. I didn't ask for your business philosophy. I asked what happened with Ms. Joseph's $8,500. The courtroom went completely silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. You could hear someone in the back row shift in their seat. But Brenda Morrison, blinded by 42 years of never facing consequences, completely missed the warning. Instead of backing down like any rational person would when Judge Judy's voice takes on that particular tone, Brenda doubled down on her disrespect. She let out an exaggerated sigh, the kind reserved for dealing with incompetent store clerks who can't process a return fast enough. Well, if you'll let me explain the full context, Your Honor, I was trying to give you the background you need to understand why this claim is ridiculous. The audience gasped audibly. Even the bailiff's head snapped up. In 25 years of presiding over thousands of cases, Judge Judy had heard every type of disrespect imaginable. But there was something particularly grating about Brenda Morrison's tone: the entitlement, the superiority complex, the absolute certainty that she could talk her way out of anything. Judge Judy turned her attention to Rachel Joseph, and the shift in the courtroom energy was immediate. Ms. Joseph, tell me about this investment. How did you meet Ms. Morrison? Rachel's voice was quiet but steady, the voice of someone who had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head, terrified she'd forget some crucial detail. I met her at my daughter's school, Your Honor. She was always talking about her business ventures, about how successful she was. One day, she approached me with what she called an incredible opportunity. She said she was launching a boutique event planning company and needed a silent partner. She showed me projected earnings, testimonials from supposed clients, even a business plan that looked professional. She said, if I invested $8,500, I'd own 40% of the company and start seeing returns within 6 months. Rachel's hands trembled as she pulled documents from her folder. I saved that money over 2 years. Your Honor, I work as a graphic designer and I took every overtime shift I could get. There were nights I skipped dinner to save money. Nights my daughter asked for things and I had to say no because every penny was going into that savings account. I thought I was investing in our future. I thought I was building something that would help me give my daughter a better life. The emotion in Rachel's voice was genuine and raw, the kind of pain that can't be faked. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, her attention completely focused. What happened after you gave Ms. Morrison the money? Rachel's voice cracked slightly. Everything changed immediately. Your Honor, the first month she said she was just getting started and to be patient. The second month, she said big clients were coming and she just needed more time. By the third month, she stopped returning my calls. When I finally reached her in the fourth month, she told me the business was closing. I asked about my investment, and she said, "That's how business works, honey. Sometimes you lose." Then she blocked me on every platform. Blocked my phone number. Blocked my email. I found out later from other people in the neighborhood that she'd done the same thing to at least a dozen families. Took deposits for events that never happened. Made promises she never intended to keep. Your Honor, that $8,500 was my daughter's future. It was 2 years of sacrifice. And she took it like it meant nothing. Brenda Morrison's face during Rachel's testimony was a masterclass in sociopathic indifference. She rolled her eyes repeatedly. She checked her phone until the bailiff told her to put it away. She shook her head dismissively. She mouthed, "That's not true," to the camera. She looked at the audience with an expression that clearly said, "Can you believe I have to deal with this?" The audience's hostility toward her was building like pressure in a volcano. About to erupt, Judge Judy had been watching Brenda's reactions more than she'd been listening to Rachel's testimony. Every eye roll cataloged. Every dismissive gesture noted. Every moment of disrespect filed away in that formidable judicial mind. And now it was time to spring the trap. Ms. Morrison. Judge Judy's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Did you deliver any events for any clients? Brenda shifted uncomfortably. Well, I attempted to deliver events, but the clients were unreasonable in their expectations. That's not what I asked. Did you or did you not deliver the services people paid for? The clients didn't understand the level of work involved. Yes or no, Ms. Morrison? Brenda's confidence was starting to crack around the edges. Things didn't work out as planned. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair. Let me ask you something else. When you took deposits from 12 families, when you took Ms. Joseph's life savings, did you have any intention of actually providing services? Or was this always a scam? The word scam hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Brenda stood up halfway, her voice rising with indignation. I am not a scammer, Your Honor. I'm an entrepreneur. There's a difference. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. Really? Explain that difference to me. Brenda took a deep breath, and what came out of her mouth next would destroy her life forever. Your Honor, with all due respect, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't follow rules. I make my own path. That's how successful people operate. The courtroom exploded in gasps. Brenda was still talking, still digging her grave deeper with every word. Maybe if you understood modern business instead of just sitting in this courtroom judging people, you'd understand that rules are for people who can't think outside the box. The silence that followed was deafening. The audience sat frozen. Rachel Joseph's eyes went wide. The bailiff actually took a step forward. Even the camera operators shifted their positions to capture what everyone knew was coming. Judge Judy removed her glasses slowly, deliberately, and placed them on the desk with surgical precision. She folded her hands together, and a slight smile appeared on her face. Not a warm smile, not a friendly smile. The death smile. The smile that meant someone's world was about to end. 5 seconds of absolute silence passed. Then 10. The tension was unbearable. Brenda actually thought she'd won the exchange. She straightened her posture proudly, that smirk returning to her face. She had no idea that in exactly 30 seconds, she would be sobbing uncontrollably and begging for mercy from the same she had just insulted to her face. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, and when she spoke, her voice was calm. Dangerously calm. You don't follow rules. That's very interesting. Ms. Morrison, thank you for that clarity. Judge Judy reached under her desk and pulled out a thick manila folder Brenda had never seen before. The folder that would destroy everything. Brenda's smirk began to fade as she watched Judge Judy open it with the precision of a surgeon preparing for an operation. Ms. Morrison, you just told this court that you don't follow rules. Let's examine that statement, shall we? Because I've done something I rarely do. I pulled your complete background file last night, and what I found was absolutely fascinating. Brenda's face started to change color from confident tan to pale white in a matter of seconds. What background file? Her voice had lost its condescending edge. Now it just sounded scared. Judge Judy looked directly at her, and everyone in the courtroom could feel the temperature drop. Brenda Marie Morrison, also known as Brenda Phillips, also known as Brenda Stevens. 3 different last names, 3 different identities, and a very interesting pattern of criminal behavior spanning 15 years in 4 states. The first revelation hit like a sledgehammer. 2015, Portland, Oregon. Charged with theft by deception. You ran a wedding photography business. Took deposits from 23 couples. Never showed up to a single wedding. 23 couples. Ms. Morrison, 23 wedding days ruined because you took their money and disappeared. The charges were eventually dropped because your victims couldn't afford to pursue civil cases. But we both know what you did. Brenda tried to interrupt. That was a misunderstanding, Judge. Judy's voice cut through her excuse like a knife through butter. Sit down and be quiet. I'm not finished. The second revelation was even worse. 2017, Sacramento, California. Arrested for fraud. You sold luxury vacation packages that didn't exist. 17 families lost money. Children who were promised Disney World. Parents who'd saved for years. You took their money and delivered nothing. You served 6 months in county jail for that one, didn't you, Ms. Morrison? Brenda was standing now, her voice rising in panic. That's not relevant to this case. Judge Judy's response was ice cold. Sit down. Ms. Morrison, we're just getting started. The revelations kept coming, each one more damaging than the last. 2019, Phoenix, Arizona. Identity theft. You used your ex-husband's credit cards to fund a consulting business that never existed. A civil judgment against you for $34,000. You never paid a penny. 2022. Right here in Los Angeles. A restraining order filed against you by a former neighbor. You harassed her family for 8 months after she refused to invest in another one of your schemes. You violated that restraining order. 30 days in county jail. Judge Judy closed the folder and looked directly at Brenda Morrison with an expression of absolute contempt. Ms. Morrison, you don't follow rules. You're absolutely right. You don't follow any rules. You've spent 15 years running scams across 4 states. You've stolen from at least 64 people that I can document. You've used 3 different married names to avoid your criminal history. And you walked into my courtroom today, looked at a single mother whose life savings you stole, and had the audacity to tell me that rules don't apply to you. This is where the 30 seconds began. Second, 1 through 5. Brenda's face went from pale to gray. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her hands began trembling so violently that papers started dropping from her shaking fingers. Wait, she finally managed to whisper. Second, 6 through 10. The denial phase? This isn't fair. You can't use old cases against me. I served my time. Her voice was cracking completely. That confident tone from earlier, completely gone. Second 11 through 15. Desperation set in. Your Honor, please let me explain. Those were different circumstances. Tears were starting to form in her eyes. Mascara beginning to run seconds 16 through 20. The bargaining began in earnest. I'll pay her back. I'll pay everyone back. I've changed, Your Honor. I have children. This last part was a lie. She didn't have children, but she was grasping at anything now. Second 21 through 25. The complete breakdown. She was crying openly now. Full sobs racking her body. Please don't do this. My reputation. I can't afford this. Her designer handbag fell to the floor. Forgotten. Second 26 through 30. Total destruction. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Please have mercy. She collapsed back into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Makeup streaming down her face in dark rivers. Judge Judy watched the complete meltdown with the detached interest of a scientist observing a predictable chemical reaction. When Brenda's sobs finally subsided into pathetic whimpering, Judge Judy leaned forward and delivered the words that would seal her fate forever. Mercy? You want to talk about mercy, Ms. Morrison. You showed no mercy to Rachel Joseph when you stole her life savings. You showed no mercy to 23 couples who missed their wedding photos. You showed no mercy to 17 families whose dream vacations were destroyed. You showed no mercy to 64 victims across 4 states. And you walked into my courtroom with a smirk on your face, telling me you don't follow rules. Well, Miss Morrison, today you're going to follow my rules. The gavel hadn't even come down yet, and the audience was already leaning forward, hungry for justice. Judge Judy opened her ruling with surgical precision. Ms. Joseph, judgment in your favor for $8,500, the full amount of your investment. Rachel gasped, tears streaming down her face. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. But that's not all. Ms. Morrison, you are also ordered to pay $2,500 in court costs, $3,000 in punitive damages for fraud, and $1,500 for emotional distress. Total amount due, $15,500. Brenda's face went white. Please, Your Honor, I can't pay that. I'll lose everything. Judge Judy's response was swift and merciless. You should lose everything. You've been stealing from hard-working people for 15 years. You've shown no remorse, no accountability, and no respect for the law or for this court. Furthermore, I am forwarding a complete copy of this proceeding, including your admission that you don't follow rules, to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, the California Attorney General, the Federal Trade Commission, and every police department in every city where you've committed fraud. That admission you just made on national television will be used in every criminal case they build against you. The courtroom erupted in applause. Rachel Joseph sobbed with relief, hugging her lawyer, whispering thank you over and over. Brenda Morrison sat collapsed in her chair, her entire world crumbling around her in real time. Judge Judy delivered her final words with the authority of someone who had seen 10,000 Brenda Morrisons and destroyed every single one of them. You walked into my courtroom and told me you don't follow rules. Let me tell you something, Ms. Morrison. In my courtroom, everyone follows rules, especially people like you. Judgment for the plaintiff. $15,500. You're dismissed. The gavel came down with a sound like thunder, bang. Finality. Justice Brenda could barely stand as the bailiff helped her to her feet. Her sobs echoed through the hallway as she stumbled toward the exit. That designer handbag left behind on the courtroom floor like a discarded symbol of her shattered arrogance. within 20 minutes of the show airing. The clip had gone viral. Within 2 hours, it had 5 million views. By the end of the first day, it was trending #1 on every social media platform. The hashtag #IDon'tFollowRules became an instant meme, shared across Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, with millions of people celebrating the most satisfying moment of courtroom karma ever captured on camera. Comments flooded in by the thousands. This is what happens when you mess with Judge Judy. 30 seconds from arrogance to begging. Perfect karma. I've watched this 47 times already. Judge Judy is a national treasure. Protect her at all costs. The video would eventually reach 52 million views, becoming the most viral courtroom moment in television history. News outlets picked up the story within hours. Local news interviewed legal experts. National morning shows featured the clip. Late-night comedians made jokes about it. Brenda Morrison had achieved fame, just not the kind she imagined when she strutted into that courtroom. But the real story wasn't just about Brenda's destruction. It was about Rachel Joseph's victory. Within a week, strangers created a GoFundMe to help Rachel, raising $47,000 to cover her legal fees and rebuild her savings. She appeared on Good Morning America, telling her story and encouraging other scam victims to fight back. She launched a successful graphic design business, with clients finding her through the media coverage. Most importantly, she got to look her 6-year-old daughter in the eyes and say, "Mommy fought back against the bad lady, and Mommy won." That lesson that justice is real and fighting back matters was worth more than any dollar amount. The aftermath for Brenda Morrison was swift and devastating. She was fired from her retail job. Her adult children released statements distancing themselves from her. Her ex-husbands gave interviews confirming they had tried to warn people. She was kicked out of every social media group, unfriended by 400 people overnight, and faced eviction from her apartment. But worse than the social destruction were the legal consequences Judge Judy had set in motion. Within 3 months, prosecutors in 4 states reopened investigations. The Los Angeles District Attorney filed criminal fraud charges. Oregon reopened the wedding photography case. The California Attorney General launched a multi-state investigation. 23 additional victims came forward after seeing the video, bringing the total to 87 people across 6 states. Brenda Morrison faced 15 to 25 years in prison, all because she walked into a courtroom and declared with absolute confidence that she didn't follow rules. 6 months later, standing in a criminal court wearing a prison jumpsuit, Brenda Morrison learned the final lesson. Rules exist to protect people. Consequences exist for those who break them. And 5 words spoken in arrogance can destroy an entire life. If this story of ultimate accountability moved you, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about this case. Should people like Brenda Morrison face criminal charges, or was the public humiliation enough? Share this video with someone who needs to see what happens when arrogance meets accountability. Because sometimes the universe delivers justice with perfect timing. And 52 million people get to watch it happen in real time.